Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. We are coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzb.in.net. We can also be found on www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring a vehicle to enlightenment. As a host of the Science of Magic, I'm granted the privilege of interviewing brilliant scientists, artisans, scholars, and mystics. Many of them have told me they believe that we stand on the precipice of a huge turning point whereby the human race can either evolve or devolve. As the only constant is change, it stands to reason we're moving in one direction or the other. Devolution, while admittedly an option, has plenty of hype and press, so I'd really like to focus our energy on the concept of evolution. Thus, the question begs asking, what exactly is evolution? Generally speaking, evolution is the change in the inherited traits of a species over successive generations. However, the evolution we're addressing here is within existing incarnate individuals rather than our descendants. While this form of evolution has a great capacity to also affect our offspring, it has the potential of revolutionary transformation of the current species within the existing generations. This concept seems diametrically opposed to the common belief that the DNA we come with dictates our formation, with no room or provision for change, well, beyond aging and death. So why is this radical evolution possible at this time? It's not so much a new possibility, but the current frequencies bathing the planet from our relative positioning in the galaxy make such a transformation more viable. Astrologers, astronomers, and scholars of the Mayan calendar have indicated that we cyclically enter into the portion of the galaxy that has much more light. When our solar system passes through these amplified areas, pressure is brought to bear on our old rigid structures, including the frozen aspects of human beings. This is evidenced by the growing turmoil in our world, such as terrorism, political conflict, social upheaval, war, and even global warming. We can either become more fluid and receptive to rapid change, or we become progressively unstable in the new ambient frequencies. Move it or lose it comes to mind. We're now well immersed into a cyclic high-frequency time, and thus are being given the impetus and opportunity to embrace radical change. Or not. The catch is, evolution requires shedding old restrictions, patternings, and limitations on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. By its very nature, this is not overly comfortable proposition. We must let go of what we have been and be made anew, a process that's not for the faint of heart. However, by aligning with the greater light now available, we can actually expand the capacity of our DNA. When we bring in a broader bandwidth of light through our chakra systems, dormant strands of our DNA actually become activated. The result? Evolution. Each of us that participates in this process, to whatever degree, paves the way for the larger whole to transcend their limitations. There's a tone sounded by a collective expansion of frequency that offers the opportunity for systematic resonance, or sympathetic resonance. As a result, others can more easily attune to the increasing expansive expression, should they choose. Problem being, you can't get there from here. This process requires refinement and participation. Like trying to jump a train moving at 40 miles per hour from a total standstill, you'll probably lose an arm if you don't bring yourself up to speed before grabbing on. We must first clear our facility, tune it much like a piano before it can tolerate the higher bandwidth of light. All 4 levels of our expression, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, have become compacted and rigid through disuse. This disuse is not due to laziness, but rather there's just not been the bandwidth of light present to activate them. Now, in the presence of greater light, we're challenged to move and shake loose the old debris in order to channel the current light into our systems. Enlightenment requires an activator. One readily available and profound activator is light's cousin, sound. Sound has been used since the beginning of time by mystics and shamans as a vehicle for enlightenment. My guests this hour have virtually dedicated their lives to bringing forth the revolutionary yet ancient modality of sound healing. Joshua Goldman was born to the world of sound healing and has been working in the field his entire life. He's the son of sound healing pioneer Jonathan Goldman and currently works with Jonathan's Healing Sounds as a facilitator at events such as Healing Sounds Intensive. He also works as Associate Director of Sound Healers Association. ALEC SIMS has been working with Jonathan Goldman's Healing Sounds organization since 1998. His overtone chanting is featured on several of Jonathan's award-winning CDs. He has facilitated the Healing Sounds Correspondence Course since 2003. After a short break, we'll introduce these dynamic artisans and their amazing body of work, their co-authored book, Sound Healing for Beginners. You are listening to The Science Magic. This and other innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Searching for the light. One people, one nation. Coming from the stars.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
One people, one nation. Searching through the night.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic human beings. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guests this hour are Joshua Goldman and ALEC SIMS, authors of Sound Healing for Beginners. Joshua and ALEC, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed your book. I found it not only to be grounded in solid scientific principles, but an eloquent explanation of the underpinnings of mystical practices. It's an amazing tool for anyone interested in healing, evolution, and enlightenment. Welcome to the Sound of Magic.
Beautiful. Thank you, Gwilda. Thank you for the kind comments, and thank you for having us on your show.
Exactly. This is Joshua here, and I just want to say thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, and in terms of the book, that's exactly what we were going for.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, I have to tell you. I have to say, gentlemen, I was impressed with the continuity of the writing. It was almost like it came from one soul. Do you think it's from a resonance you've developed with each other through your sound healing practice?
That's highly likely. I've known Joshua since he was 4 years old, I think, was when we first met. So we've been together a lot over the years, and the sound, being in sound together, I'm sure has created a form of, sort of harmonious psychic unity mindset. And also, working with Joshua's father, Jonathan Goldman, we've had a very, major similar influence in how we look at sound work.
And luckily, we just have a very similar writing style as well, and that helps a lot too, where we come from similar educational backgrounds, similar interests in creative writing, and for the most part, we really lucked out because I think often writing a book together can be a difficult exercise, but we get along very well, have very similar concepts about the nature of sound, and between our different, similar yet different backgrounds, we really cover a lot of ground in terms of sound and sort of fill in each other's gaps in knowledge in a way that it really was for the highest benefit of a very cohesive book.
Well, you operate like a soul team. It's just beautiful to be able to read something with such continuity, and yet the dynamics of two people participating was amazing. I also love your work with chakras, and you describe them as receiving stations, transduction points, places where subtle energy form higher planes and convert to physical form. As a shamanic practitioner, I've also come to recognize them as transmitting stations where our intent can be moved into the physical world through the quantum level. Do you guys also see them this way? And if so, would you mind expounding on it a little for us?
Sure. Be a big topic there, but not only chakras, but also I think the whole human energy field, energy system, and the brain and consciousness are both receivers and transmitters. And the models of chakras, they take energy in and express it in your energetic being first, then physical dimension, and also are capable of transmitting outwards and affecting the environment. Because your energy field is inextricably interconnected with the vast array of vibrations and energies that we all swim through every day throughout our whole lives.
And really, I'd like to add that sort of chakras or any energy center metaphor function sonically in their nature. They are harmonic. They work within intervals and naturally occurring multiples of sound.
Hence the value of the metaphor of sound work, harmonizing one's energies and putting yourself into balance with sound has energetic implications and effects as well.
Yes, which leads us right into my next question is, how can sound healing enhance this receiving and transmitting capacity of our being, all levels of our being?
I think, well, first taking this a slight step back, as you, in your intro piece, you were talking about various frequencies and resonance, and that's all going on multiple levels and all bandwidths of energy. But the beautiful power of sound work is it's also here and now and very literally a physical plane energy. So, whereas some more subtle energy work like chakras and seeing auras or whatnot may take some skills to develop greater sensitivities, but everyone can hear or at least feel sound. And working in that bandwidth of sound, you can have a lot of direct experiences that form lessons and teachings that can be applied at least analogously up through all octaves of vibration. So as you balance yourself on that physical sound, on that physical level with sound, that spirals upwards through all the energetic layers.
And I really like to focus on sort of a top-down approach with using sound, in that if you have a desired result, as opposed to just focusing on, well, how can I use sound to fix this one small thing? Well, let's start from the very top. Let's just use sound to balance the entire entity or energy structure. And then as that happens, that tends to sort of have everything click into place.
So historically, the mastery of chakra work and sound work has been restricted to shaman, mystics, and magical practitioners. Yet you indicate through sound healing most people can develop this capacity. How does one achieve this, and why do you think it is possible at this time?
Well, that is what's exciting and interesting about this time, as you hinted at in your intro piece, that there's been an explosion of all kinds of esoteric information that, maybe only a few decades ago you would have had to have been an initiate of some, sacred order or tradition to get teachings. But the sound work, I think, just begins because it begins here and now where you're at. Everyone. So in my work with correspondence course students in the Healing Sounds Correspondence course, which is a literal, practice of just doing toning exercises and noting the results. Just going into the sound work, making the sound with an open mind and open to experience, that becomes your main teacher and source of initiation. Just being in the sound work. As you experience it and your levels of sound sensitivity increase and become enhanced, that opens up almost inevitably. At least the hints of experience with higher, quote-unquote, higher, more subtle realms.
And as for me, why do I think that everyone can learn to use sound as a powerful transformational modality? Well, I just don't think it. I know it because I've seen it my entire life. I've seen so many people exposed to sound and just instantly sort of lit up, and utilizing frequencies, they've been able to expand their consciousness in very real, practical ways and in very esoteric ways as well. And, we are all made of sound. We are all in a state of movement and vibration. So who can use sound? Everyone can use sound because we are all made of sound. And, no matter what, you are putting out frequencies and using and working with sound. So it's not really so much a matter of using sound, it's consciously using sound, because we're all constantly using sound as a transformational modality. It's just the matter of adding the conscious element to that.
And the first steps are very simple. That's what's beautiful about it. Just a little bit of teaching, and we offer many different exercises in the book to get people in the experience of sound. But just making simple elongated tones, or what is known as vocal toning. Just a few minutes of teaching and a few minutes of practice, and one is on the first step on the path. There's no years of discipline required. You can begin where you are at now, very simply, and then from there, it's an endlessly vast, potentially complicated path, but it can begin just really simply with here and now.
Exactly. And as we like to say, sound is the greatest teacher. Really, the work itself, the theory behind it is great. First you need to understand the science, what sound is, how it works. But then, really, the greatest learnings are the experiential learnings that come from working directly with sound. You want to become a master of working with sound, make sound a lot, listen to sound a lot consciously, actively listen to sound. Sound, as we point out in the book, is a form of touch, right? It's airwaves coming at you. So the farthest away sound you can hear is actually the farthest away thing that you can touch consciously. Although really, because the human audible spectrum is so narrow, we only hear a small part of the sound that's all around us all the time. So really, we are touching everything around us through sound all the time. So it's just a matter of becoming conscious of this powerful effect.
One of the things that I've noticed in our world of sound, if you will, where we have recording studios and beautiful music out there, the problem that I see has come from that is that people listen to these engineered, tuned pieces and think, oh, I can't sound like that, and therefore I better not sing.
That's a great point, and I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's something that we like to early on point out as an important difference between working with sound as an energetic modality, such as toning, versus performance singing, and they really are so different. Performance singing is wonderful, and it has its therapeutic benefits, no doubt, but what we're talking about is separate, and we like to let people know that it's not a matter of sort of judgment, it's really a matter of expression, and we like to try to get away from that sort of self-judgmental voice, because really the most important thing here is expressing your energy sonically. And doing so without judgment is difficult, no doubt, but it is important. And so we like to sort of free ourselves from that, if possible.
Yeah, that's right on. Is that because sound healing, in its most expansive sense, as I think that was the starting point of our book, like contemplating it as a branch of energy medicine, so sound work. It's not a musical practice. It's not about performance singing. There's no musical skills or quality or more significantly, judgments that come into play.
So
vocal
beautifully
toning.
put. I'm afraid we're going to have to take a little break. We'll return to our discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Do you want to hear more? Our innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
One people, one nation.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. We can be found on www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guests this hour are Joshua Goldman and ALEC SIMS, the authors of Sound Healing for Beginners. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about resonance. I just loved in your book, you mentioned several types: free resonance, sympathetic resonance, and forced resonance. How are they alike and how do they differ?
Good heavens. That was our best shot. That was our best shot at writing about the science of sound, which becomes a bewilderingly complicated topic, and there are these door-stoppingly thick textbooks that one could get into if you really want to get into the science and physics of sound. But we just try to just extract some general broad-stroke concepts that people could apply practically to energy work. And a big thing is resonance, and there are two broad-stroke types. There's sympathetic resonance, where that's more of a I guess a passive thing would be one way to describe it. Say if you had two objects that had the same frequency resonance, or same general frequency resonance. Say you had a tuning fork that was 200 cycles per second, which is the way that sound is measured in hertz or cycles per second, and another one that was 200. If you strike the first one, the second one will begin to vibrate due to just the nature of the similarity of their energies, the correspondences between them. If one thinks of the realm of magic and the law of correspondences, two same objects vibrate the same. And then the forced resonance, that brings in a little more complicated dimension that's similar to entrainment, another term that's discussed, whereby one object's vibrations sort of affect another and sort of impose its vibrations on it. And that's where a lot of healing effects can stem from. If you have a certain center or condition that's out of balance, another sound projecting its energy onto it can change its vibrational state in various ways.
Exactly. Really, I mean, often when we're talking about the power of sound to change our physical or emotional or energetic states, we're talking about forced resonance in action, in that you might be making a sound or listening to a sound, and that's going to change your resonant state. You know, if you have a drum beat at a certain rhythmic pulsation rate of, say, 60 beats per minute, you and your nervous system are going to entrain to that sort of resonance, that boom, 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 boom. I mean, for instance, your intro music, the bagpipes, they sort of, I was paying attention to what they were doing to my energetic field, and they were definitely lifting me up. They were sort of energizing me because it was a little bit faster, a little bit deeper resonances. And that's all sort of forced resonance in action.
And since many of your listeners may be familiar with the shamanic traditions, that classic shamanic drumming, that boom, 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 that's what's going on there, and that's where its effect stems from. As people come into a ceremony or session in a certain state, that drum goes, and that first changes their heart rate and respiration into resonance with it, and that shortly thereafter has effects on their consciousness and perceptions.
That's what I love about drumming circles. Is I work with a lot of doctors. I'm a preceptor for the University of Colorado School of Medicine. So, of course, they always want to measure things. And we were doing a drum circle, and I had some doctors come in, and they set up, where they could listen to people's heartbeat and see how they were doing. And when people came in, everybody's hearts was doing their own thing. And then after the drumming had been going on for about 5 minutes, they took the heart rates again, and everyone in the room their hearts were beating together at the same time, except for one person, and they were on a pacemaker. And that was eye-opening for me to see how unifying the simple rhythm can be. So how do you, gentlemen, see resonance playing out in human interaction?
Well, exactly. I want to mention that is an example of resonance. That's also an example of entrainment, which is another powerful sound concept in which... for instance, if you've ever seen the classic exercise of a series of sort of different meters going off, different, so almost like grandfather clocks going at different rhythms, they will entrain with the largest clock, and that's a matter of them all coming into a state of unity.
And I love your example so much. That's just another validation of what I love about the sound work plane, because there was a physical sound and there was a physical effect that was easy to measure scientifically, because a lot of our scientific validation just exists within those bandwidths of energy that we could perceive with our physical senses. But there you go, it was documented that everyone's physiology came together. What is harder to prove is, like, did their consciousnesses and states of psychology also entrain to a similar state, and experientially, I know we all know that's true, but that's harder to measure. But that's the spiraling up phenomenon that you can experience in the world of sound, experience that physical resonance, and that projects upward into states of mind, states of being. And we have experienced that many times at big events, such as, at smaller events, such as toning groups, or annual Healing Sounds Intensive, where people come together from all over the place, and after a few days of making sound together, there's this really incredible feeling of connection and unity and, soul family for people that go there with that type of thoughts. It just comes through making physical sound together.
It's amazing. There actually is some scientific evidence out there of what it does to brain waves. Again, those doctors always like to put instrumentation on my head and measure my brain waves. And I have this, when I go into a shamanic trance, it's absolutely consistent that my alpha brain waves drop to 7.5 hertz, that of the planet. And I can recreate that at any time. So there's actually scientific proof on other levels as well.
Yeah, that's the next domino up, from physical heart rate, respiration, to brain waves, which can be scientifically measured. And then brain waves are very strongly correlated with certain states of consciousness. So that's that spiraling upwards from physical plane to more subtle energetic levels I was just talking about.
And that's also an important concept to just be aware of in your daily interactions with the world, that any group you go into, you are going to be in training on certain levels with that group. I mean, whether or not you're chanting together, if you're going to be chanting or making sound together, it's going to happen a lot faster often and to a greater extent. But it's really going to happen anywhere you go. So where you go, where you spend your time, who you're with, these are the people that you entrain with. These are the things that you blend with and you become like.
That's such a beautiful concept because we tend to just stagger around feeling like victims, and yet we don't realize the impact we have in our world by the people that we hang around with. And if we can find people that are uplifting, that have our same values, then that's increased exponentially. And if we put ourselves in situations that's incompatible with us, we become imbalanced. How does sound help regain balance when you've become imbalanced because of your environment?
Yeah, that's also a big topic, but I think that's one of the powers of sound work, that you're not necessarily just passively, at the mercy of your surroundings through using simple energy work techniques via vocal toning, which is basically making extended sounds with your voice, as I mentioned. That's a form of generating energy, and you have a lot of ability to balance your own energy field and become more coherent, centered, harmonized, many different metaphors one could use, but that makes you less prone to being knocked off your center by vibrations, sort of like if you're physically strong, you can, move through the world, but if you're, weak and frail, like a wind would blow you over, think of the wind as vibrations as you enhance and center your own being. With simple sound techniques as the starting point, you can be a creator and ultimately a broadcaster of energy, not just passively at the victim of your surroundings.
And it's
so it sounds like if you're actually embodying the sound once you've practiced enough that you just carry it with you, and you don't even have to be making a tone physically to be carrying the sound. That's just an amazing concept. We're going to have to take another short break. Gosh, this time is going so fast. We'll be back on the flip side of this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Our theme song, One People, One Nation, is from the Winds of Time album by my musical group Starfire, and can be found on iTunes.com, cdbaby.com, amazon.com, and my website, gwildawiyaka.com. We'll see you on the flip side of this short break.
One people, one nation, searching through the night.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. We can be found on www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guests this hour are Joshua Goldman and ALEC SIMS, the authors of Sound Healing for Beginners. We were discussing balance and being able to embody sound without making a sound. What role do you see this as playing in our evolution as individuals and as a species?
A huge part, because I think that's the goal or hopefully benefit of any of these various spiritual studies that people do, to evolve yourself, empower yourself, initiate yourself to new levels of consciousness and ways of thought and being. And because I think that's the real cornerstone of change in this world. Every individual rising up, the power in a pyramid flows from the base up. It's not who's at the top, rules the world. It's like the essence comes from the heart of each individual, and using various techniques, meditation, sound work, etc., as you enhance your own being and set of frequencies, what you broadcast out contributes to the symphony of consciousness and being throughout the world.
And I think it's important to note that balance means different things at different times. It's not a stagnant point of balance. Balance is constantly adjusting. If you've done any balance work, just from a physical standpoint, you understand that balance is not about being perfectly still, but it's actually about small micro movements to stay in that perfect equilibrium. And sound is really perfect for that, because sound is by its nature flexible. To be balanced in your environment, you need to be flexible and able to adapt to changing influences and inputs. And sound is really powerful for that.
It's beautifully put. Before we get too far into this segment, I don't want to run out of time. Before you guys telling our listeners where they can find your wonderful book and where they can find your wonderful healing practice.
Well, for now, the main outlet for the book is on Amazon. If you look up Sound Healing for Beginners or either one of our names, that's available there in all ways, physical and Kindle. For now, if you wanted to contact either of us, probably via the Healing Sounds website, healingsounds.com or info@healingsounds.com. It's always working there, ongoing basis in Jonathan Goldman's world. We have an upcoming website of our own, which is under construction, which will be sound-nexus.com, but it's just an undeveloped landing page. But in the future, that will also exist.
And we will both be participating with the upcoming World Sound Healing Day on February 14th of this year. And we will be teaching at the upcoming Healing Sounds Intensive in late July in Loveland, Colorado.
That's wonderful to see you guys so active and participating in bringing this beautiful modality to the world. I and my listeners are very grateful you're doing what you're doing. Another favorite subject we seem to have in common is intention. As you see it, what is the relationship between intention and sound and manifestation?
Also a big topic. I mean, intention is how one of the major ways whereby one shapes energy. Like just making a sound is a physical, plain, passive thing, or it's just a physical phenomenon. But when you bring your consciousness into it, that shapes the experience. And everyone's had that experience with people's tone of voice, listening to people's tone of voice. If a friend says something, you might have a certain experience, but if someone who you don't like or doesn't like you says the same words, same frequencies, there'll be a different effect. And everyone has felt and been aware of that.
Yeah, and sort of like I was saying earlier, we're all already using sound all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. So intent is that consciousness, it's that purpose behind the sound, because anytime you're speaking with someone or even just sitting with them, you are affecting them with your sound, because again, everything is making a sound, even if we can't hear it. It doesn't mean it's not making a sound, or the corollary of that is everything is making sound. So intent is acknowledging that we're putting sounds out there, and we want to do so with a purpose, with a conscious energy added to that sound. That's why intent is so important.
Intent focuses, like you think the metaphor of light, if you think the difference between a light bulb that's just broadcasting soft light all around versus a laser, which is the light waves like coherently focused into a more direct flow, there's a big difference in the effect between a dim light bulb and a finely tuned focused laser. And the goal of intent is to become more like the laser, where you project what you want in a very specific way.
So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the more masterful you become with working with sound, whether it's audible or not, the more masterful you become with your intent and your consciousness of your intent, the more laser-like you become?
It's a powerful set of tools and practices to put you on that path. Like meditation is just, ongoing practice to become truly focused and have a focused, one-pointed mind. But sound work, just really simple ways to begin and have some satisfying direct experiences with it first, and that puts you on the path towards all of those goals, I think.
Exactly. I feel it's important to approach anything with a healthy skepticism, but one of the great powers of sound is, try it for yourself, experience it for yourself, and let it be the teacher. Again, let your own experience through and with sound guide you and let you know what it is capable of.
That's, again, one of the things I love so much about your book is there are these complex concepts of sound that make absolute sense to me as a shamanic practitioner, and yet they were as simple and as straightforward that if I had none of that experience, they would absolutely make sense to me. But then the exercises were so beautifully eloquent, simple, and easy to implement with profound changes. How did you come up with these?
Years of, actually a lot of it probably thoughts triggered by working directly with people. So I've been doing this, facilitating a correspondence course, Healing Sounds correspondence course since 2003, and so the feedback from students and having the privilege of being there, observing their experiences, from being in tone. So a lot of them were some were adapted from that course, and some were original ideas that came as the result of interactions with people who were doing the work.
Exactly. It's a matter of trial and error. I mean, a lot of these are ancient techniques, and some of them are new spins on that, but that really comes from being our own sort of sonic laboratories, our own mad scientists of sound, just utilizing sound in different ways, working with groups like our local toning group, and just finding different ways to resonate ourselves and quick and efficient ways to show the power of sound.
So it's how would you recommend people start using your book? How frequently do you suggest they use the exercises?
Begin simple and small. That's more satisfying. It's toning sessions of few minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. Just see where that takes you, and do a brief bit of toning work and let it go for a while. Just take a note of any shifts and changes and build from there. Like any program, if you were to start working out at a gym, you would work for 15 minutes and build from there.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. So you just continue to build until you get your sound muscles in shape, right? We're going to have to call it quits, which is sad to me. I've so enjoyed working with you gentlemen. For those of you that just came in, our guests this hour have been Joshua Goldman and ALEC SIMS. They're the author of Sound Healing for Beginners. Their beautiful book can be found on Amazon.com. This has been The Science of Magic, and I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Remember, you can always listen to this and other provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you find peace, balance, music, be blessed with knowledge, and comforted with love.